Hello and welcome into CHGO Tavern Style. I am Herb Lawrence from CHGO White Sox.
And I'm Luke Stuckmeyer from CHGO Cubs.
And today we are going to be on the same side. We're just going to be giving our list. Instead of arguing White Sox Cubs stuff, we're giving our list of our favorite cities as far as sports are concerned. I'm a big proponent of a city that loves its sports. And there's going to be a team and a city in this list that I'm not going to list that you're going to get mad at.
Yep.
These lists, of course, they're not the definitive list. They're for arguments. So if you have a different list than us, please leave them in the comments. But Luke, I'm going to start off with you. What is your fifth best sports city in the United States, and give me reasons why?
Okay, well, I'm going to break this down two ways.
Yeah.
If you're talking about greatest sports town in America right now, it has to have two things. One, crazy fans.
Yep.
Two, some portion of it, whether it's 20%, 25%, 50%, some of it has to be winning franchises or winning teams. Mm-hmm. It can't just be, if you're going to tell me it's just the greatest fans, it's Chicago. Number one, every time. It's Chicago, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're doing it the way I'm saying right now, we've been knocked off the perch.
Okay.
Because our teams stink.
All right.
The baseball teams aren't any good.
I mean, none of these
The basketball team hasn't been any good. The hockey team hasn't been any good. And we just pray every year that the football team's finally going to be good this time around. So we've been knocked off the perch if you start counting success of the teams as 50% of it. So my number 5 would be Dallas.
Okay.
Dallas has great sports fans. It's got the Cowboys. Half of America loves the Cowboys. They're not a great team, but they're rampant fans, and they do have teams that have been very good. The Rangers have been good at times, right?
Yep.
Stars have been good at times, and we know that the Mavericks are good.
Well, that's a good choice right there. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia people because there's no more passionate and some say dirty / angry fans than the Philadelphia fans. And I'm, as a Chicagoan, looking at them like, why are you so angry? I mean, the Flyers every year are doing things. I mean, the Eagles are in the playoffs every year. The Sixers are one of the best teams in the East every single year. Like, what are you so mad about? And then that's not even to talk about the Phillies, who have a great owner and a great team, have been to the playoffs like every year that I've remembered and have won a recent World Series. We're in the World Series like 2 years ago. So Philadelphia is my number 4 team. I'm number 5 team. Your number 4 city, best city for sports for Luke Stuckmeyer.
Well, this makes me sick. I wanted to put Denver here.
Yes.
But I couldn't put Denver here. It's got to be New York. They have 2 baseball teams, just like we have 2 baseball teams. The Knicks, bad as they are still the New York Knicks.
Yep.
And they really have 2 football teams. So with all of that being said, and they do have crazy, passionate fans, and of course they have the history of the Yankees, their teams aren't great right now either necessarily. The Knicks are getting better. You got the Rangers. You have 2 hockey teams. New York has to be in the top 5, so they're number 4 for me.
I'm going Seattle. It's a off the radar thing, but I've been to Seattle.
Yeah.
There's a lot of passionate fans. I mean, just look at the MLS team, the Seattle Sounders. They get 40,000 people at a football stadium. We know here, as our Chicago Fire, don't get close to that. They go from like 8 minutes down and march to the match because they're so passionate about it. I mean, the Seattle Storm, very passionate WNBA franchise. They got the loudest crowd. I mean, some would say Kansas City, but those Seattle Seahawks, I mean, that's the 12th man. The 12th man because of how loud they get at Lumen Field. I think Seattle is an underrated sports city, and the Mariners ballpark at T-Mobile is great, and the atmosphere is always good. So and they've recently have won. So I would say Seattle's my number 4. Your number 3 team. Or number 3 city.
My number 3 is Chicago. I think we've been dropped all the way from 1 to 3 just because our teams have been so bad for so long.
Okay.
Right? We just can't win. It's not our fault. Like, if the Bears can be a legitimate force in the NFL this year, I could see us moving up to number 2. If the Bulls would ever figure it out, or one of the other teams, but like if the Cubs somehow miraculously made the playoffs this year and made some noise, we easily go back to 1 if some of these teams start to play well. But until they do, we can't claim we're the best sports town. We sit around and we watch losing all the time. So it's up to the owners of the city's teams right now to turn this around. We've done our part as fans. Best fans in all of sports. All across sports. Sky fans too. But you have to have winning teams. And right now, we don't have winning teams. The Jordan days are long over. We can't claim that forever.
I'm going to go with Denver as my number 3 team. They don't have a basketball team necessarily, but they do have passionate fans about college. Firstly, I know that Fort Collins and Boulder are not in Denver proper, but I mean, we can go through these cities that we've already put in here that are not a part of proper cities, that they're passionate about those. And also, I mean, the Rockies are one of the worst teams in baseball. 30,000 people go to that ballpark every single year. Yes, the stadium is more the draw and more it's a party atmosphere, but as a city of 700,000 people, they're getting 30,000 a year, a game to go to that ballpark to see a terrible team. And we're not even talking about the 2 recent champion Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, who are awesome at the Pepsi Center. So I would say that Denver is a underrated. These are, I'd like to give a little shout out to people in the Mountain West, or in the mountains and in the West, like Seattle.
Air Force
and DNVR too. They have a whole bar.
Air Force,
as you're saying, like a whole bar where they watch sports.
They do.
Like,
huh?
I don't know if that would work in Chicago. Like initially when we signed up, they were like, we might do a CHGO bar. I don't think it would work out in Chicago. Denver, it's a perfect city and the perfect placement for the DNVR bar because you see the atmosphere. And if you watch any of the celebrations for the championships of both the Avalanche and the Nuggets, the DNVR bar is on fire. And if you're out in Denver, go and check it out.
It's a good point about the college teams, and that's another reason that I had Dallas in my top 5 because you have Texas, you have Texas A&M, you know.
SMU?
Those teams may not necessarily be in Dallas, but those are their teams, and they're huge factors in what everybody does. My number 2, you want my number 2?
Yep.
That's Philly for me.
Okay.
Because they're good at everything, and they still have teams like Penn State and all those other teams that go along with it. Villanova. It is a great sports town. They are crazy passionate, sometimes just because they want to live up to their persona, but the teams have been very good too. And I've had this debate with Philly sportscasters before where I've done Chicago versus Philly, and I've always said Chicago, because we had the championships. We had the names. Our city's better because we don't have a bell that's cracked. We actually have things that are put together nicely. We don't have winning teams right now.
No.
And so we've been knocked off our perch, and to me, Philly has finally passed us.
And if this was about the most winningest sports city in the United States, this town that I have number 2 would be my number 1 of that. But no, it's Boston, has great sports fans. I always think it's about that 12-year-old kid who had that sign that said, I'm 12, and I've seen numerous championships. That kid's like 21 now. He just saw another championship with the Celtics capturing another championship. So as the Patriots are going down a little bit right now, but he had a long time of cheering them on for championships with Tom Brady. I mean, the Bruins are in the playoffs every single year. I mean, and we need to talk about the Boston Red Sox. They're always great. And we're talking about colleges. I mean, they host the Bean Pot, I think they call it, the hockey tournament there versus BU and
good.
Harvard and BC and all those things. They have a great atmosphere there, but there's a reason why the number 1 city I'm going to call is the number 1 city, and I'll get to it when I get to it. So who's your number 1 sports town in the United States?
Well, that's easy. And, obviously it's the great fans in St. Louis. No, I'm kidding. Of course, it's not St. Louis or
No one cares
Milwaukee.
about those people.
It's Boston. It's who you talked about. Right now, they're winning at a, enormous pace. The Patriots wins are still close enough that everybody remembers Tom Brady and all that stuff. All of their teams seem to be good. The Phillies are spending money at enormous rates. But it's Boston. It's Boston, right? It's not. Boston is the city where the Celtics, not only do they have the past, they have the present.
Yep.
And so I think it's Boston, Philly, Chicago right now. And after that, it's everybody else.
And I'm going to say Chicago. All the teams we just named and we all talked about from Boston, tell me where the Patriots play. They play in Foxborough.
Right. This is my argument for Arlington Heights.
Tell me where the Cowboys play.
It's not Dallas.
They play outside. They play in Arlington, Texas. Every single Chicago team that you know, besides the Red Stars, play in the city proper and to Chicago.
For now.
That makes a difference.
For now.
Hey, Herb.
Yeah.
Where do the Jets and Giants play of New York?
They play in a different state.
Different state.
They don't even play in the
Different
same city. That's why New York is not on my list at all.
Oh, okay. All right.
That is the main reason why New York is not in my state at all. And as you talked about
two
Chicago.
hockey teams, 2 baseball teams.
Yeah, but also they're the most
And
popular
zero football teams.
Yeah, the most
And
popular.
technically zero football
like
teams.
Buffalo has more of a claim to New York's team than the 2 football teams with the name New York in them. So Chicago is the greatest city because of what we're going through right now. We're going through a lull of these teams, none of them making the playoffs in the last year, and still the passion that we see on our talk lines, the passion that we see when we put something out there.
Yep.
Everybody's like, I want this and that. The White Sox are on track to be the worst baseball team ever, and we still got people tuning into the CHGO White Sox broadcast every night and waking up every day for their podcast wants to listen to us talk about the White Sox.
But that's because you and Sean are so good.
I mean, a little bit. That's like 3% of it. All the rest of the people like, I'm passionate about the White Sox. I need it now. And so that's why I say Chicago, and yes, I'm biased. Of course I'm biased. Is the best sports city in the United States. What's your opinion? What do you think of our opinions of the best United States sports cities? It's CHGO Tavern Style. That is Luke Stuckmeyer. My name is Herb Lawrence. We'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.